Okay, awesome. Our numbers are going up. That's great. All righty. Looks like we'll get started. Welcome to the Atlanta Consortium College Panels. We are so excited to have you participating in this event. We have some fantastic folks here with us today representing different universities. My name is Chelsea and I will be your facilitator. Before we get started, a few housekeeping items. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. This is just one of many sessions happening, so be sure to check out the schedule on the website. This presentation is being recorded, as well as all the others, so if there's any that you missed or want to go back to, they will be available at strivescan.com/ATL. And now I'd like to turn it over to our panelists, first being Kelly.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us today. We are thrilled to talk with you about campus visits, all kinds of great tips. We know that for many of you, it may be the first time. There may have been a long gap in between when you were able to visit campuses for obvious reasons, but we're super happy to be able to give you guys some tips and tricks for really maximizing your time on campus. So as mentioned, the Q&A is open. Please send us your questions. You can start right now. We're going to get to as many of them as possible at the end. And if we have the ability, we can answer some as we go as well. So please don't be shy. Feel free to send us your questions and we will get through as many of them as possible. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and get going here. And like I mentioned, we will leave as much time as we can for questions. All right, so before we get going, I want us all to have a chance to introduce ourselves. My name is Kelly Butler. I am the Director of Admission at Oglethorpe University here in Atlanta. I'm super thrilled to talk to you guys today, and I will let Emily Davis say hello.
Yes, thank you. My name is Emily Davis Hamray, and I am an Associate Director of Admission at Agnes Scott College here in Decatur, so the Metro Atlanta area.
And hi, my name is Alex LeBlanc, and I am the Director of Recruitment at the Savannah College of Art and Design, also known as SCAD.
Hi, I'm Natalie Mann. I am from the University of Georgia. I am the Assistant Director of the Visitor Center there, and I am so excited to be with you guys today.
Perfect. So before we get started, just want to kind of mention a few terms. This is not a full list of types of college visits. There are lots of kinds, and different colleges use different terms to define what they're offering you. So this is, a short list of some different things that may be available that you may see. When in doubt of what the actual visit entails, check the website or reach out to somebody in the visitor center or in the admission office, and we will be more than happy to tell you what to expect. But a few different possible names that you may run into. Open house, that's typically a larger type of visit. Will likely include a campus tour as well as some maybe info sessions, maybe a lunch or a dinner, maybe a gathering of some kind, maybe even hear from professors or other staff. So open house could mean a lot of different things. A preview day may be similar, so it's likely going to be more than just your campus tour. It's probably going to involve some good information sessions and things like that. School may offer a class visit, so you can actually sit in on a class with a professor and get a feel for, hey, is this type of academic environment something that I'm looking for? It may be a campus tour on its own, so you may just be viewing the campus and hearing from a tour guide or a student ambassador or something similar. So that may be all that you are scheduling if you're scheduling specifically a campus tour, or it may or may not include an additional component about the school, so maybe a presentation. There may be program-specific events. So you may be invited for an athletics day or, a STEM-focused visit or something like that where it's a specific interest or program that's being offered to show you a little bit more of a snapshot of the school in that sense. And it may be in person or virtual. So some of us may have always done only in person in the past and then quickly had to switch to virtual. Some may still be mostly or fully virtual, and some may be a mixture of both or all in person. So, universities across the nation are going to be doing different things depending on what's going on in their state, what makes sense for them and their students. So definitely double check that when you're scheduling something. But it is a great opportunity if you are interested in a college that's far away from where you live and you don't have an immediate opportunity to visit in person. virtual could be a great first step to get a feeling for that school and kind of see if, do I want to keep this on my list or do I want to move on and consider somewhere else? So there's definitely a place for virtual moving forward, and it could be a good option for a lot of different opportunities that arise. Does anybody want to mention anything about types of visits that may be offered or things that are left out that you'd like our students to know about before we move on? All right, cool. If you guys have questions about types of visits, definitely feel free to drop that in the Q&A. All right, so I'm going to briefly talk about how to figure out where to visit. We know that there's literally thousands of institutions across the United States and where to even start. So I know that can be a little bit overwhelming, but we don't want it to be. We want this to be a fun process. We want visiting campuses to be exciting and not overwhelming. So where do we even start in terms of figuring out where you want to visit? The first thing I would suggest would be to list your priorities. And we're going to talk more about that on the next slide, I believe with Natalie. So she's going to help you figure out, what questions should I be asking myself when I'm making my list, when I'm getting on campus, what types of things should I be thinking about? So she's going to mention some of the types of things to think through. But once you figure out, what things are most important to me, write them down. And my advice is to rank order them. So different things are not going to be as important to each individual student. So some types of things that you could be thinking about are size. Do I think I want small, medium, or large? What type of environments? Do I want city? Or do I want to be more, rural or at the beach or in the mountains? Do I want to focus primarily on a major that's offered or a activity that's offered? Or am I thinking most about scholarships and other things are kind of secondary? So write down those things that are important to you and rank them in order of importance and focus on maybe your top 3 is what I would advise. It's going to be hard to just find an infinite list of schools that you think meet every single criteria, but you're not going to know until you get on campus. So kind of rank them in order of importance and pick a couple to focus on in the beginning. Then research your options. So if we pick those top 3, say we decided in the beginning to focus on a school of a certain size in a certain city, that, offers a certain type of scholarship. Let's just say those were our 3 things. You can start to research schools that fit that criteria. So whether that's asking your school counselor, who's a fantastic resource if you have a college counselor or a counselor at your school that focuses on these types of things, whether that's using a search engine like Princeton Review or something like that, whether it's asking your family, there's lots of different ways to research your options, but start to try to narrow down and pick a few schools. And what I'm going to recommend is 3 to 4 to start. 3 is probably a really good number. So pick 3 schools that seem to fit that criteria on your list and try to see if they're offering campus visits in a way that fits your schedule. Once you visit those schools, go back to step 1. So you may find in visiting that actually, I thought I wanted a medium school, but now I'm kind of reconsidering that. Or I thought I wanted to be, in my state, but now I'm thinking out of state might seem like a good option, or whatever the case may be. Visiting schools is your opportunity to test out those thoughts that you have and those priorities that you think you have, and go back to the drawing board. If it was confirmed what you thought initially, then maybe you want to find another 1, 2, 3 schools and continue visiting. But if not, you can go back to the drawing board, consider your priorities again, reorder them, and try to find 2 or 3 more schools to visit, because this is a process that we're going to be going through, not a one and done for almost every single student. So that would be my recommendation of kind of figuring out where you want to visit, and then reevaluating as you go. All right. From there, I'm going to pass it along and have y'all learn a little bit more about questions to ask yourself before you even get on campus.
All right. So I work with tour guides at the University of Georgia, and so we love talking about this. So I have surveyed a few of our tour guides to find out some of their advice about these questions. So number 1, what am I most excited about for college? So this helps you have a better vision for what you are looking for in a school, but also in your college experience in general. Plus, it's fun to start dreaming about what your experience could look like in the middle of all the stress and the fear and the uncertainty that can surround the transition from high school to college. And what are your expectations for college? Are they realistic? And how can you set yourself up for your expectations being met? And then number 2 would be, what am I looking for in a school? Knowing specific things that you're looking for or are interested in can help make the mass amount of information more manageable and memorable. And what do you need for a school to offer in order for you to go there? How does this school support students as they transition into college? And thirdly, what's important to me? So choose a school that is centered on what you want and don't settle because of anyone else. So some examples of this to consider: location, consider the town in which the school you're looking at is located. Would you be comfortable there? Demographics, the size of the campus, size of classes, safety, how many students they have enrolled, the residence hall experience, off-campus housing options, the culture of the campus, getting around the town, and just other similar things. We could go on and on about that. And here's a quote from one of our current tour guides. And they say, before I launch into my tour, I encourage my group to pay attention to the campus and the students walking to class and try to visualize themselves in the environment. I'd like to think this helps visitors use their impressions of campus to project where they see themselves in the future and who they are in that place. I also try to emphasize that as powerful as rankings are, no student experience is encapsulated in a number. Make sure you're choosing X school, whatever that is for you, because you love it. You love the students, you love the campus, you love the energy, and not just where it sits on a list of your rankings. Fourth, what do I like or don't like about my hometown and still want to have in college? So an example would be, one of our tour guides said, I wanted a vibrant art scene and consistent open studios, museums to visit, and a lot of artists surrounding it was something that was important to me when looking at schools. So when I came to visit Athens and visit University of Georgia and noticed murals and vibrant downtown scene, I knew it'd be a place that I could find those experiences. And lastly, check in with your own values. So how does the school align with and support your values? So you have to figure what those are first. And it's really valuable to talk one-on-one with as many current students as possible, whether it's a tour leader, someone working the desk, or a random student that you may ask for directions on campus. You can read marketing material all day long, but conversation is where you can really test if the school lives up to its values and its reputation. And what do you want out of your college experience? And what are you willing to do to make your college experience a good one? So those are just a few tips from us at the University of Georgia. And now I'm going to pass it off to Emily.
Yeah, thank you. I think that those were so many great questions to really ask yourself before that visit. The main thing, of course, we've said it a few times, is just figuring out what is important to you in this process, what you want out of your college experience, and what your priorities are going to be. So once you've figured those pieces out, the next step is figuring out, who are you actually going to ask questions to figure out whether or not a college is able to meet your priority list, has those factors that are important to you, if those things are accessible on their campus. Depending on the type of visit that you're doing, you're going to have access to a few different people who can really help you figure out those different priority lists. So maybe if it is a regular campus tour on a Thursday afternoon, you might have the chance to interact with a current student and check in with someone from the admission office. Versus if it's one of those huge open houses that Kelly was mentioning, maybe you won't have as much access to your admission counselor, but you'll have access to some of those professors, those staff members from different departments on campus. So the type of visit is really going to influence who you're going to be able to talk to. And so if we were to move on to the next slide, we're going to go through some questions and some examples of what you can be asking when you're having these conversations. I will say, if you know how to use the screenshot feature on whatever device you are currently watching from, feel free to take some screenshots of the next 3 slides and come back and look at them later. Because I'm going to go into some questions that you can ask really each of these 3 groups of people. Starting with current students. I personally think current students are one of the most important people that you can talk to in this process, because once you have figured out your priorities, asking current students is a great way to get an idea of what the day-to-day life of that institution is, whether that's the experience in the classroom, outside the classroom, accessibility of resources, anything like that. So for example, Natalie was just using that, talking about a student who it was really important, the location for them, having access to museums. If that's something that's important to you, maybe you want to ask a current student, well, what museums are in the area? Have you been? Are they easy to get to? Are they accessible from campus? Those are going to be things that are important to your overall college experience, and a student can give you a little bit of insight into what that day-to-day looks like. The same thing, if maybe you're interested, you know you want a small institution because you want access to professors. So ask a student, well, what is that day-to-day life of actually interacting with professors going to look like? So at the end of the day, once you've figured out that priority list, asking a current student is a great way to get their experience of those factors that are going to make up your overall college experience. On the next slide, we're going to go over some questions that you can ask an admission counselor in this process. So if you do have access to someone from the Office of Admission, maybe during that daily campus visit, they're a really great person to check in with when you have questions, maybe about the application process, about your deadlines, but also just anytime where you don't know who to ask a question. So you've gone through, you've figured out your priorities, but you're like, I don't actually know who is going to have the information and how to get that question answered. I recommend asking your admission counselor, saving those until you get to chat with them. Chances are they have the information themselves, they know where that information lives on the website, or they know who on campus can help you get that information. So anything related to applications, admissions, maybe scholarships and financial aid, but also just general questions that you don't know where they go, great things to save for your admission counselor, so that they can get those answers and just help you get to know an institution in general. And then that last piece is going to be access to faculty and staff. So again, some of those maybe larger open houses, special preview days, things like that, you're going to have access to faculty and staff that you might not always have access to during a normal campus visit. So if we look at the questions for faculty and staff, these are really going to reflect maybe more on like what support systems are going to be available to you once you're on that campus. What resources are you going to have access to? So again, when you're going through your priority list, if it's interacting with professors, ask a professor, well, how often, how closely do you work with students? If it's having access to a certain type of technology in the classroom, maybe having access to career advising. That might mean during that open house, you want to find a professor who you can ask about technology, find someone from the Office of Internships, Office of Career Development, that you can ask a little bit more about how are you supporting students as they're leaving this institution. So faculty and staff are really going to be the people who you can ask questions to get an overall view of the support systems and the resources that are available to you. So those are going to be the 3 groups of people that you can really have access to during your campus visit, and some different questions that you can ask them. Hopefully you got your screenshots in. If not, here's your last chance to get a quick faculty and staff screenshot. And once you've gathered all that information, you've gone through your visit, you've asked those questions, of course, the next step is just, what do you do with that information? So I'm going to turn it over to Alex to talk a little bit more about that piece.
Yeah. All right, so your work is not done after you leave our college campuses. In fact, that's kind of when the hard work begins. But some helpful hints for you to keep you organized and on track. The first is to keep in touch. Do not let this be the last interaction that you have with our campuses or with the schools that you are visiting. I will tell you a pro tip is to write thank you notes, whether this is an email, whether this is a handwritten card, whether this is, hey, I found you on Instagram and I just wanted to say, I really appreciate your time. Thank you notes make all the difference. It is a great way to, casually continue conversations. It's a great way to stay on a faculty member's radar. If you know that you are in need of conversations with your admission counselor or your advisor, keeping in touch is really, really important. For us on the college side, we don't know what we don't know. And there are a lot of times where, if we had had a little bit of communication prior to a deadline or prior to the end of the school year, we could have made some moves with you and for you. So keep in touch, especially at least from the admission side. When we secure faculty and current students and all of these various professionals to come and connect with you and your family, they're taking a lot of time to prepare for your visit and they are invested in you. So as much as the admission team, especially like our welcome centers, we get to love on you and, get excited and connect with you. Our faculty and our staff are investing in you and your experience as well. So they love staying in touch. So I do encourage you. There are so many different ways. It's not as black and white as writing a letter anymore. A lot of us and our teams and our faculty and our staff really are utilizing social media. So even through Instagram, I have students who DM me pictures of their art and it's like, oh, yes, it's so good to see you. It's so good to see you progressing. And it just stays on my mind. So do keep in touch with us. It means the world. Keep notes, take notes. So Kelly definitely hit on this at the beginning, when you are at the very start of this journey. But while you're on campus, it's not fun. I know it can be difficult sometimes, but take notes during your visit. Who are you meeting with? What's their name? Do they have a business card? Do you have the option to meet with your specific person within the admission department? That's someone who's going to be your best friend in the coming months, maybe a few years if you're starting this college visit sooner rather than later. So do take notes so you can go home. It is inevitable. You and your family are going to get in the car or you're going to fly home from your visit. You're going to be like, rats, I completely forgot what the name of that building is, or I forgot what our student tour guide's name is. Well, if you kept in touch, if you take notes, we can connect those dots for you. Stepping on a college campus for the first time can be a little overwhelming. And we know that, we appreciate that. And that's why we are emphasizing not only staying in touch with us, but taking notes throughout your journey. And also visit those lists you made prior to your visit. Are we checking all of the boxes? Do you still have some unanswered questions? Are there more people that you need to get in touch with after your visit? Don't be afraid to let these lists be a living document. Rank your personal rankings, your personal preferences, your options will move and they will shift, especially as you visit, as you interact with schools, and as you are making some decisions with your family about your future plans. So do keep notes. I love when I see students who have like a college specific email address so they can stay organized and they do not get spammed in their personal email with all of our collegiate mail. I have seen families come on tours with binders or with a note app on their phone. And, it's always fun when families come prepared because it helps move us along and helps us help you more efficiently. And then also come back again. As Kelly and Emily, they highlighted so many different ways to connect with us in our institutions. And it's hard to check all of the boxes during one specific visit, especially if it's just that daily tour and not a specialized open house event or massive event going on campus. So there may come a time, especially if hopefully, fingers crossed, you guys are starting, your college visit sooner rather than later, that you'll have time to revisit some of these campuses for the schools that you're really, really considering as you're narrowing down that list. We encourage our students to visit anywhere and everywhere during their freshman and sophomore and even into their junior year. But then after they apply, after they have been accepted into those, handful of schools that they're really, really considering, come back. The lens in which you're seeing and asking questions and interacting with our campus will be very different. So don't be afraid to come back and take a second look, or search for opportunities to connect with us within your own communities. A lot of us have different regional events where maybe you're getting a fresh perspective off campus, but you're still staying connected to us and our community and our institutions. A lot of us have very strong alumni networks that are involved in recruiting and supporting prospective students and their families. So do come back and take a second look, even if it's in a virtual setting. But don't limit yourself to one visit if you need to spend even more time on our campus. So those, I think, are the three main tips that I have for you guys. But yeah, the hard work starts after you leave our campuses, in all honesty.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much for that awesome wisdom. We are ready to take your questions. We're also going to be able to drop a little bit more information in terms of links of how to schedule with us. So we don't have those links here because obviously you all can't click them, but we should all have some type of visit webpage, portal, somewhere that shows the different opportunities for you to come to our campuses or engage with us virtually. So we'll be happy to share those with you. Of course, you can also just search Agnes Scott visits or UGA campus tour. And of course, they're going to come right up, but we will drop those as well. As was mentioned, please ask questions of your admission counselor. I don't know how many amazing students have said to me, I didn't want to bother you, or I've sent you so many emails already, but truly that is our job, is to help you through this process. So do not feel as if you are bothering us. We want to help you, and that is why we are here. So please don't ever be shy about engaging with an admission representative. And finally, the last thing I just want to mention is, obviously I did go over making your lists and priorities and things like that. But if you're that person who's watching and is thinking, how would I know if I want big or small or this type of university or that? That is a valid question. And it is also okay to just start with a couple universities that you know nothing about, get a feel for them, and go from there. It's also okay to throw a few wild cards in. I know personally, when I was looking at colleges many years ago, my mom, for example, dragged me to one that was not on my list, and I said, heck no. But after that campus tour, it was one of the schools at the top of my list because all my misconceptions were wrong and I loved it. So it's also okay to try out a few things that maybe you weren't thinking when you first started. All right, perfect. So we have a question here in our Q&A. If we can't visit in person, are there students available to answer our questions, and how do we contact them? That's a fantastic question. I think it's going to be different from school to school. General information, because obviously we can only answer for our institutions. I would say generally for any institution, reach out to the admission office and say, hey, I would love to speak to a student. Potentially you could say I have X, Y, or Z interest, or maybe I'm from Florida and I'd love to hear from a Florida student if you have one about what it's like to go to your university or something like that. That's a great place to start. Other schools may have social media platforms where students may be engaging with other students. So for example, we do an Instagram for our admitted students. So if you're admitted and you want to hear from other students about what's going on, what it's like to be, they'll go live and do stories and answer Q&A and things like that. So that's a great place to engage with students if you're admitted but still not sure where you want to go. That's a great place to be. But yeah, you're welcome to, if, for example, at Oglethorpe, reach out to us, send us an email at admission@oglethorpe.edu or reach out to your admission counselor, and we will be more than happy to connect you with a student, or just come to campus, and all of our tour guides are current students. So you can ask them as many questions as you would like. But I will open it up for others to answer if they would like.
Yeah, at the University of Georgia. So at the Visitor Center, we have students staffing our front desk Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So there's always a student there ready to answer any question that you might have. Also, you can email us and we will promptly email you back, and you can give us the long list of questions that you may have, or if you just have one or two, we are happy to assist. So either way, you can call us, you can email us. You can check us out on social media as well, and you can send us a question that way. But yeah, we try to be as accessible as possible. But I think you're right. Speaking to a student just makes all the difference. So you can hear what campus is like through an actual student. So either way.
I think it's also important to remember the power of a digital connection and social media. So quite frequently, I know for us and other institutions, and some of y'all's schools that I've seen, you do student takeovers, alumni takeovers. We all are so proud of our current students and our alumni that we're often featuring them. So I would definitely utilize your cell phone and connect with us via social media. Whether it's, checking us out on YouTube or a more intimate setting in like Instagram. But yeah, definitely connect with us on social media for sure.
And I would just also add, maybe thinking a little bit outside the box when you are doing some of those social media connections too. By all means, I'm sure we could all put our like Instagram and social media channels in the chat so you can follow our institutions, but also think about, well, is there a specific club and organization that I'm interested in? Do they have an Instagram of like events that are happening on their campus? Are you really excited about being involved with a certain department on campus? Do they have a Facebook or Instagram where they're posting events and opportunities for students? Does the internship office maybe have a LinkedIn profile where they're sharing opportunities and resources? So what are some other different ways other than just those maybe mainstream accounts that you'll see in an admission office, but other ways that you can really learn about an institution without having to set foot on it?
Definitely, all really important pieces of advice. Another question we've got is, could you give additional examples of good questions to ask an admission officer? Some questions that I've been asked that I thought were really good. I've had students ask, what type of student or what qualities do students have that you find to be successful on your campus? Because, there's no one uniform student at each campus, right? At the same time, though, a lot of times students that really do well on a specific campus or at a specific type of school may have certain things in common. So that's something that you may want to ask to see, does that sound like me? Does that sound like the type of environment that I would thrive in? Other questions could be things that admission officer wishes they had known during the process, because we do kind of have a different perspective than a lot of folks would know. So we are happy to give you a little bit of tips of how to navigate. Additionally, you could ask I think it was already mentioned, but what students do for fun, I think is a great question, because again, that's different on every campus, but you need to be somewhere where you're going to thrive outside the classroom. I once asked on a tour when I was in high school what students do on the weekends, and the tour guide, honestly, to their credit, she was very honest. She said, most people just go home because there's not a lot to do around here. And so for me, that was like, oh, that might be good for some people, but I would like to have fun things to do on the weekend. So that's another great question to ask, but I will let others give their advice too.
So I encourage all of my students on campus tours to ask where their alumni are going after they graduate. Are they pursuing additional educational opportunities? Are they entering the workforce? Are they working for themselves? Are they going to companies? What are they up to after they graduate? So definitely that would be my insight for you guys.
I would just add in also, maybe don't be afraid to ask, what am I missing in this process? Is there a specific deadline that I need to know about that's not on my radar right now? Are there visit opportunities, chances for me to maybe meet with those faculty and staff that are coming up that you can tell me a little bit more about? Maybe those are online workshops that they know about, but might not be as obvious to you. So don't be afraid to ask, like, what am I missing in this process? What other things are exciting, are about to happen on your campus or in those virtual spaces that should be on my radar at this point?
I also do remind students to ask about any scholarship applications or deadlines. We don't all have them. We don't all have separate scholarship applications or deadlines, but you don't want to miss out on those. So don't necessarily assume that just because you've done the application that you have also applied for scholarships. So that's a good question to ask early on in the process. Which of these colleges do in-person visits? Great question. So show of hands, if your institution is currently doing in-person visit, will you please raise your hand? Everybody. So Oglethorpe, UGA, Agnes Scott, and SCAD are all doing in-person visits right now. We'd love to have you come. So please do. If we have, safety protocols, which I'm sure we all do, we will be sure to communicate those to you either on the website itself or in reminder emails. Do check your email, right? After you book a visit, make sure you check your email for confirmations to see if there's any, places where check in here or safety protocols here, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, you can always ask us if you're not sure. But yes, we are all offering in-person visits and very excited to do so. So please do come and see us. Let's see. Oops, there we go. Are any particular online events about admissions for Are there any online events about admissions for all 4 colleges? Gotcha. Okay, so we are doing a few online events coming up at Oglethorpe. We're having a couple of sort of workshops that are about your college application. It doesn't really matter if you're applying to Oglethorpe, which of course we want you to, but even if you're not even considering it, we are having an Insider's Hips workshop all about the application itself. We're having a college essay writing workshop. Those are both coming up in October. We'd love to have you join. We're having a STEM focused visit that's also online. So if you're interested in any of the science, math, any of those fields, we'll be joined by some great faculty members. So those will be online, and I'm sure we will be offering more throughout the fall, but those are the ones that are coming to mind. They are all available for registration on the link that I dropped in the chat. And then of course we offer online tours by request as well with a student tour guide. Other schools, what are you guys offering online?
SCAD offers a daily virtual tour online every day. We also do regular admission specific information sessions that are virtual and joined sometimes by faculty and specific staff members. We also have guests and gustos. So we have a virtual series of presenters, industry professionals, and alumni who come and visit our current students in our community. So we have opened up these events virtually to prospective students and their families. So you can basically start connecting with our community sooner rather than later, whenever you're ready.
And at Agnes Scott, it sounds like pretty similar. We have those ongoing admission workshops that we're doing this fall, as well as regularly scheduled virtual visits that are actually led by a current student as well. But we've also got some large scale virtual open houses that are coming up. The next one is on October 23rd. So that's really the chance to learn from current students, talk to faculty, talk to staff, talk to admission counselors, but all in that virtual space. So able to kind of replicate a lot of those online experience or in-person experiences online.
Yeah, and at UGA every Tuesday from 3:30 to 4:30, we have it's a virtual campus visit experience, and it's 15 minutes of our admissions information session, which kind of goes into what's required for applying. And then we have about 30 minutes where we talk about from the students. So the students will give you a tour of campus. There's 2 different tour guides that will do that. And then we have time for Q&A. So we do that every Tuesday, 3:30 to 4:30. And then my friend Blanca is behind the scenes, and she works specifically for UGA's admissions office, and she can give you any of the other offerings from admissions as well through the chat.
Another great question. My daughter is a sophomore in high school. Is that too early to start college visits? I would say it's not too early. I would say it's not necessary to start that early, but I don't think it's too early because, as we talked about, the process can feel overwhelming. And if your daughter is able to start getting a feel early, that might help her, narrow down her options and be able to focus a little bit more specifically when she is a junior or senior. That's just my 2 cents. What do others think?
I went ahead and that starting in your sophomore year is a great way to just kind of get a sense for what is going to be on the priority list once you are a junior or a senior in high school. So for your daughter, just visiting a variety of institutions. Atlanta is a great example of a city where there are so many different institutions. You have large scale public institutions, small liberal arts, private colleges, art schools, HBCUs, a little bit of everything. So maybe visiting a variety of institutions just so that she can really get a sense of like what does feel comfortable, what is she noticing that maybe wasn't part of her priority list if she hadn't gone and seen it in person. So I personally think sophomore year, it doesn't hurt to just start visiting a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I agree with Emily. I wouldn't say, take it too seriously come your sophomore year, but, the more you can narrow down your interest, your focus, your feel, it's super, super helpful. Also, this leads into another question that we had in the panel, summer programs. So, we have summer programs that start as early as freshman year in high school. And it's a great way to connect and give these schools a good test run. You will be learning something and experiencing college campuses and connections and making friends along the way, but it'll also help you in your college search process. So I dropped the link to SCAD summer programs, but in case anyone was interested, we do have pre-college programs for all high school students. We have a week-long program that is workshop-based, and then a 5-week program where you actually earn college credit. So again, come and give us a test run.
All right. Asking about any summer camps or events, which is a great question. I've been answering all the questions first, so would somebody else like to start? Or I can. I think we all are going to offer events throughout the summer, for sure. A lot of places will offer a lot of their open houses or preview days over the summer. We certainly do. We offer what we call Petrel previews. Petrel is our mascot. Throughout the summer, and then some other programs as well. And there's always camps on our campus. A lot of you may be familiar with us specifically from a soccer camp or something similar. Because we are in the fall, we maybe have not announced those for next summer yet. So I would keep in touch with us and keep checking our visit portal. Other folks may already know about things that are going on in the summer, but definitely we have a lot available. We know that's when a lot of you are available to start your campus visits. So certainly we'll have stuff on the calendar for you. All right, we are almost out of time. I just realized. I think we dropped a lot of good links in the chat for you all. And of course, like Google X college campus visits, and they will come right on up along with contact information for you all to reach out for us, which we would love to have happen. Very last tip, if money is an option for you to visit a school, you can always ask if there's any types of programs to help bring you to that campus. Worst they can say is no, but some schools may have vouchers or other opportunities to help you pay for that travel. And when you're in a city, of course, you can hit as many schools as you can in that area. But I would definitely ask if that's what's keeping you from coming. It may be an option that they could potentially help you. But we are so happy that you all joined us. I'm going to pass it back over to Chelsea in a moment, but we are thrilled to be able to offer this information. We'd love to keep the conversation going, so please feel free to reach out anytime. We hope to see you on campus soon, if possible. We'd love to continue having that conversation and answer your questions. And we hope you have a fantastic rest of your evening.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to wrap up here. Okay. A big thank you to our presenters. That was some great information. And also a thank you so much for joining us here this evening. When you close this window, there will be a link to a very quick 5-question survey. We appreciate any feedback you can provide. Check the schedule. If there are more sessions, feel free to sign up. You'll be able to find this session's recording as well as the other recordings at strivescan.com/ATL. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.